2, 1, 0. All engine running.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucer. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat.
Just before 9 o'clock this morning in New York, a passenger jet which had taken off from Boston slammed into the World Trade Center. Thick black smoke blotted out the Manhattan skyline.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the Esoteric Roundtable. We are your hosts. My name is Justin. I'm joined here with my good friend Ben and my good brother Jim. My good brother as opposed to my bad brother. Today, Jim has a presentation for us. Well, less of a presentation and more of just like some interesting topics. And while I don't know exactly what they may be, I know they do include some philosophy. So, Jim, what you got for us?
I figure, it's the end of the year. We have a lot of what I call resolutions coming up. A lot of people want to exercise. Well, today we're going to exercise our minds. That's what I figure.
Let's go.
How about that for an intro, huh?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I like it.
Beautiful.
Good. I've been thinking of a lot of, or hearing about a lot of philosophical conundrums, I guess you say, paradoxes, things like that. And I thought, well, I'd love to hear your guys' input on these. So, I thought I'd present a couple of them today. Now, the first one I heard, I think it was on some random YouTube video, but I've been thinking about it an awful lot. Apparently, it's basically philosophy 101. It's anybody who's a major in philosophy, this is one of the things they ask that really gets the kind of the mental juices flowing. I just lost the feed of you two, but I hope you still hear me okay.
Yeah, we still hear you.
Okay, very good. So basically what it is you say you're on a trolley, like a train in the city, and you have lost consciousness, okay? So you wake up and the trolley has just run away. It's flying down the track, and coming up is a fork. It goes in two different directions, okay? On one side, there's one person tied. That's the one you're headed towards that to hit that one lady that's tied up. Now, the other side of the fork, there's four people tied up. Now, you realize you can pull a lever and switch the four people, or you can just go ahead and hit that one person. And actually, I got that swapped around. I'm sorry. You're headed toward the four people. You can turn the lever and hit the one lady.
Right.
What would you do and why? Now, you think about it, because naturally, you're going to hit the four people, and that's beyond your power. Okay, you're already headed towards them. Now, if you pull the lever, you're only going to hit one person, therefore saving three. That's under your own power. So you're going to have that on your conscience that one lady died because of you.
For sure.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I've been so back and forth on that. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Well, I don't know. I said you're a murderer if you kill the one person. I don't know if that quite makes you a murderer. Honestly, then you're like, you know what? Fuck this one person. I think that's a situation where I would just like try to go to sleep.
Go back to sleep. Yeah. You lose consciousness again.
Actually,
That's what I would.
I don't think I want to partake in this little experiment, trolley people. Nah, but I that is a very good one. I guess that really depends on what you weigh of like your choice of taking out one life, or is it like, but four people get to live, or what do you think, Ben?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, there's a moral conundrum there.
Right.
You have, in one hand, you can do nothing, and inherently you cause the death of four people. But if you pull the lever, you're the one that made that logical choice. I'm going to pull this lever, hit that one person. But either way, I feel like you're morally in a bind. There's no right or wrong there, other than, well, I feel like if you don't just hit the one person. As bad as this sounds, it seems like you have some some kind of evil intent there because you're like, I want to get these 4 people going.
Well, you know what? If I can't just watch one die, I want to fucking watch
to me,
4.
To me, the pull of the lever doesn't hold as much weight as allowing 4 people to die.
Right.
In my opinion, I feel like allowing 4 people to die and leaving 1.
Yeah.
Or
that's a
I
good
just
point.
don't.
And also,
That's my
like,
thought
I feel
process.
like as a human, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people are gonna be like, man, 4 fucking people versus me, just take me. You know what I'm saying? You kind of have that. Humans have that natural, like, the pack must go on mentality. So if it's opposed to just you as and I guess it depends on the people too. Like, if it's 4 pieces of shit lined up, I'm a Tokyo drift right into them. I
That's
also
right.
have seen a meme about this conundrum where the dude like drifted the tracks to where one side of the train was on each side, so he ended up killing everybody. So there's also
I have
that.
heard of this before. It's been a while. I didn't think I would know anything, but I've heard that one before. I've never really thought this deep about it, but I think I would kill the one, or pull the lever and hit the one. I wouldn't physically
kill
kill
the one. He would kill the one.
That's the dilemma I find myself in. I can let 4 die and just do nothing. But at least I guess in that case you have, your hands are washed. But...
Yeah, and we also should probably talk about the philosophy of the fucking person that's tying 5 people to these rails.
Yeah.
4 on one rail, 1 on the other rail, 1 female. And then he's just sitting there like, what will you choose, Batman?
Snowy has a long mustache and he's twirling it. You just know that.
100%.
Who
will it be?
I think that we can all agree on.
Who will live? Yeah, definitely.
That's some good takes on that. That's one thing I was thinking as well, is that we focus so much on the taking of life that we don't think about the ones we would save.
Yeah.
And so I think it's all about what you focus on there, because if you allow the one to die, well, then you're actually saving the others by pulling the lever. So,
and I do have one additional thought on this real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you here, but I had to get it out because I would forget about it and I would feel it would bother me. We talked about, briefly mentioned those people that would say, oh, I would just sacrifice myself instead. But really, you think about that, all those people that say that, how many would truly be like, okay, in the heat of the moment, I want to kill myself to save these people? Because I'm chilling. I'm not going to kill myself.
People say that, and then something scary happens, and then you see them run past somebody they could have saved or something. Actually, I have a super funny story about me and Jim's dad. So he was born not born, but he was raised in California, Northern California. All right, there's some snakes here and there if you're really out in the foothills and stuff like that, but water moccasins are not a fucking thing in Northern California. Okay, so he lives in Mississippi, South Mississippi, and he is at the creek, at Flint Creek, Ben. If you know, I believe you know what Flint Creek is.
Oh, water skiing. We used to go all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was, they were out, and it was like a family thing, kids and everything like that. And people from the shore that they didn't know, like other people, they started yelling, moccasin, everyone get out, there's a moccasin. And my dad's thinking oh, like a little beaver or something. I'm not tripping about no fucking little moccasin. He doesn't know what a fucking water moccasin is.
Oh, yeah, shoes.
And then so people start yeah, exactly. That's what he thought. He was like, I don't give a fuck. So everybody starts running out. And he looks and he sees the water moccasin, the snake on top of the water poking his head out. And he was like, snake, snake. And he starts running towards the shore and he knocks over my 5 or 6 year old cousin, Rogerdale. Just knocks him over completely and runs past him to shore until he realizes what he had done. And he turned around and went and grabbed him, snatched him up, and then ran back out. But I guess that's what comes to mind when you're in the scenario of I'm a big bad motherfucker until you see a snake and then you run over a child to get away from it, So yeah. I guess that's a good
scenario that works best for me because that is my greatest fear, and Rogerdale would have to fend for himself.
Yeah,
because I'm getting up out of the Flint Creek.
I ain't coming back for you, buddy.
Rogerdale's a goer, man.
Fucked.
Isn't it interesting how it seems that everything is centered around self-preservation? It's
Yeah.
like everything we do, everything we think, it's all about either preserving the individual self or, in the big picture, preserving humanity. I was thinking of that's actually not a topic I was thinking of, but it's just interesting that you brought that up because it's something I think about a lot. It's like everything we do, um, it kind of goes off of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know if you heard of that. It's a psychology. It's a
Mhm.
triangle basically, and so at the top would be food, water, shelter, things like that, and then it goes all the way up to basically reaching self actualization, I believe it's called.
Mm.
But it's interesting though because I was thinking the other day about like fight or flight and things like that, and
Yeah.
how how it's like I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying not to get too far off topic here, but
Yeah, it's a
I get what
philosophical conversation, so
it is,
to
and
get off topic is just being on topic, because then you're just
Yeah.
pondering, then you're just a wanderer.
Absolutely.
it's true. I'm
What
all over the place
is
in this
off
episode.
topic?
Why
Is
I will deviate a little bit here because I had something else that I thought of here. You mentioned, psychology, and I will revisit this, but this reminded me of a book as far as self-preservation and these moral dilemmas. Um, I'm gonna butcher this name, but I've read this book. Fyodor Dostoevsky. He was a psychological writer, and he wrote about all things psychology. He wrote this book called Notes from the Underground, and it's written from the perspective of this diplomat who was corrupt and knew he was corrupt, but he died. And this is like his confession after death of talking about the things that he had done while on Earth and how people act while on Earth in order to get ahead for selfish reasons, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
It was very
Mhm.
interesting, man, and that's what made me think of it. I had to get that off my chest because if you haven't checked that book out, Notes from the Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky, it's a very, very good read, and it kind of plays into what we were talking about there.
Yeah, absolutely. And books and like things like what am I trying to say here? A little book club kind of is something that we are in the talks of putting together. Book suggestions. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Because between the three of us, we enjoy books different between all of us. I'm more of like a ancient history conspiracy type myself, you
Oh,
know
yeah.
what I'm saying? But we all like it all, and we love suggestions, and we love to suggest to you guys what we have read. So that is going to be a big part of something that we're setting up in the future. But for now, there are social medias and our email. That's the word I'm looking for. Our social medias and email will be in the description if you have a book that you would like to suggest to us.
well, movies as
Continue
well.
on.
There's some good documentaries out there as well.
I love a
Absolutely.
documentary.
Oh
Me
yeah,
too.
definitely, for sure.
Um, just kind of hopping into the next topic I have here. Something else, like I said, I work, I drive around. I think all day. I know I've said that before. Um, someone mentioned their kid cutting a worm in half, and that each half grew into its own worm. Which I know that's not true of all species. I googled that. But there's certain things like flatworms and things like that. They do grow heads on occasion and become their own being. That kind of led to me talking to my daughter not long ago, my oldest daughter, about. Uh, um, I said, if I cut my arm off, uh, why is that part of me dead? But then I live on as me. And this is kind of morbid. What do I have to cut off of me where that's not me anymore? You know what I mean? And so
Right.
that got this kind of deep philosophical thing going in my mind. Where I'm thinking, I guess it kind of goes back to where is the soul?
Yeah.
And that's something else I looked up. And of course, you can go way back in time. People have been asking that for forever. Even ask if there is a soul, and if so, where is it located? I know in ancient Egypt they believe it was in the heart. Some others think the brain. I
Right.
believe it was Chinese ancients believe it's in 5 different locations.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um, but what do you guys think about that? Like what makes where is the soul located in
I think
us?
about and now this is I'm probably going to sound super crazy when I say this, but whenever I'm like walking around and I have deep thoughts like that, because I'll just randomly be hit with something like that from the depths of my brain, and it'll make me kind of feel like it almost out of body, but still it feels like it's right behind the eyes, you know? I feel like that is like where you sit. Everything is, I guess, the brain. I guess that is what you would call it to me. But then that begs the question, if you know, they're, say it's a corpse, you know, we're talking about morbidness, sure, we'll use that word instead. But if, say, it's a corpse and like you take their brain out when you're doing their whatever, their autopsy, does that mean that that's not the person anymore? Or if you take their eyes out, because the eyes are the window to the soul or whatever, you know, does that mean that it's not them? Or so I guess that is a really good question. And what do you have to take off to where it's just like not you at all anymore?
Yeah. For me, and I'll go back into this. Like, I'm not gonna actually correlate this wholeheartedly as my belief spiritually, but I mean, when people talks about, okay, they say, you know, if you die, you know, one of two things are gonna happen. If you're Christian, you go to heaven or hell. You know what I'm saying? But your physical body doesn't go anywhere. Your physical body goes in the dirt, you know, and you decay over time, but your soul goes to heaven or hell. So personally, I feel like a soul would be something that isn't necessarily defined by the body that it's within. It's its own thing. It's a soul.
Yeah,
that's
no,
hard
I
hard to
definitely
correlate that thought.
agree with that as well, because
Yeah.
I personally have less of like a Christian centric way of thinking, and
Yeah.
I think what jives with me more is things of like reincarnation and things like that.
Yeah.
So
And
I 100% see what you're saying, that it's the energy that was used
yeah.
to create your physicality that is
And
your soul.
I really wasn't trying to correlate that strictly to Christianity. It was just the easiest
No, yeah,
comparison I could
absolutely.
make to explain that. But also thinking, like, for me, at the same time, like, you are who you are based on your thoughts and what you speak and what you do every day. So your brain has probably the biggest controlling factor of everything in your life. And honestly, for me, if you watch a medieval movie where they behead somebody, and you look at the body to me is not indicative of who they are. Like, without a face, they're nothing. They're nobody. That face, the face and who you see, to me is what makes someone them. When I can recognize them, like when I look at Justin, I see Justin because I know his face. Or if I look at Jim, I can see Jim. So to me, if you were to cut off somebody's head, to me it's like without the head, and if it's just the torso and the legs,
That's
it's not
how
really
you
the
lose
same.
your person.
It's just limbs and a body. It's not you. But that's how I see it. That is kind of wild to think about, though.
Yeah. Or maybe it's your pineal gland.
Yeah, I believe that was one of the philosophers, and I fail to remember who it was, but someone did say that, specifically the pineal gland, I believe.
Yeah.
Definitely different parts of the brain was mentioned a lot. Kind of piggybacking off of that, because like I said, I had this in my mind for a while. I was watching a completely unrelated video on YouTube, which I do frequently, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but it's pretty interesting. To where they have a subject put their hand on a desk, and they put a barrier so that they can't see that arm anymore, and they put a false rubber arm there where they can see, and at the same time they'll stroke that fake hand, they'll stroke the real hand with like a feather or something like that, where it gets in their mind that that rubber hand is theirs.
Right.
And then after a while they'll smash the rubber hand with a hammer, and they can feel they jump or they have some serious reaction because they think they're about to be hurt. Well, I thought taking that further, I wonder if we could ever accept another body as our own in that same fashion, that we become so attuned to something else being us
Right.
that almost like a hermit crab, we kind of hop our soul into another being and
Yeah.
accept that as our own. Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be something?
I feel like that's honestly, to be maybe the more on the conspiratorial side of things, I feel like that's kind of what transhumanism is pushing onto, is with the whole new people wanting to be put brain chips in your fucking head. And I know so crazy for saying that, even though there are multiple fucking people that said they want to put brain. I'm such an absolute buffoon and loony for suggesting that people have publicly said that they want to put brain chips in your fucking
Neuralink.
But, you know, whatever. Yeah.
Neuralink.
So yeah, I mean, and then with the whole Facebook Meta thing, which in my opinion kind of flopped. It doesn't really seem to be everything they wanted it to be, but they definitely, in my opinion, okay, I can't say definitely, but they wanted it, in my opinion, to be exactly that, something that, you know, we can kick these mortal bounds and kind of go into there. And maybe it's because they personally don't want to die. Maybe they're scared of what comes after this. They gotta fucking, you know, face their karma of some shit that's gone down while they were here. But or maybe they don't believe in the afterlife at all, and that they really do just want to live forever because they don't think that there is anything after this, you know?
Yeah.
I know that's super fucking off topic. I guess I'm just having my own conversation
Oh,
now.
no, I mean, I think it plays in, man. I mean, that's the modern day as to what, like, the metaverse, like you can immortalize yourself or live a different life in an alternate reality. Why? I don't even like having to always deal with everything I deal with in this
Yeah,
life,
I'm
much
still
less an
trying to
alternate.
figure this real
I'm
life
having to
shit
go
out.
and pay bills, pay rent, pay my subscription fees in an alternate reality, you know?
Yeah, and I guess that
Worry
was
about buying
something I
virtual
was guilty
land.
of when I was a teenager and really into not leaving my room and just playing video games and stuff like that. And then when you don't allow yourself to actually experience real things and you just search more and more and more into the virtual world to look for things that can be super nice and cool. And then I started going on hikes and I started just experiencing the real outside world, and it was super nice. And then I got Lyme disease and I haven't fucking been back outside pretty much since, but I'm going to. It's super cold here in Missouri right now, but
You
I
hunted
do
for some
plan on
fruit
getting
recently.
back out.
You did hunt for some
We
pawpaw
did. We
fruit.
looked for some pawpaws and didn't find any. If anybody knows the pawpaw
Found some
location.
mamas instead.
Yeah, found some mamas.
Soon it'll be morel season.
Choo!
Morel season in Missouri.
All right, Jim, we'll let you get back on her.
Yeah, no, I was gonna circle back around even further than what you just did. So I mean, you know, I love the whole thinking of new things as we're talking, but I know one of you mentioned um returning to the earth, basically ashes to ashes kind of thing. And isn't that just the wildest thought to think about, that we come from the earth? Like,
As
I don't know
above,
if
so
anybody
below. That's a big part of the Hermetics thing with my
exactly.
conversation about Thoth and Hermes Trismegistus and their books that it turns into the Hermetics, the Hermetic Brotherhood and stuff like that. And as above, so below is such a big thing for them, and that goes in so many ways, like astrally as above, so below, and physically, and what you surround yourself with is who you become, and what you eat is who you become, and just everything like that, and consume in terms of media and things like that, and it shifts your entire perspective, and it just changes who you are inside and the things that you allow yourself to be around or consume on the outside. So I think that's a big part of it.
It's just fascinating. Let's see what else I have on the old board here. Here's another little paradox, but it's not so much one to necessarily debate, but I thought it was pretty interesting. I actually found it when I was looking for the trolley one, but I thought it was pretty interesting because we think of infinite, you know, numbers are infinite, base is infinite, and things like that, which means, you know, if you were to add to that, well, you can't really add to it because it's infinite.
Right.
Well, there was a philosopher, and I don't recall right offhand who it is, but they brought up their own paradox. Let's see. I want to give them credit because I really liked it. It's called Hilbert paradox of the Grand Hotel. That's what it's called. And so basically, what he did is he said, so you have infinite number of rooms at a hotel, and you're the manager. Someone comes in and wants a room, and so you can't put them all the way at the end because by the time you get there, it's expanding. It's always more. It just keeps going.
Right.
But what you do is you give them room one, and you bump room 1 to room 2 to 3, and 3 to 4, and so on. And so basically, you can add to infinite, just not at the end, at the beginning instead. I thought that's just an interesting way to look at things. I don't even fully think I wrap my head around it, but I just thought it's so interesting that even when there's infinite, there's still more. There's still ways to add more.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. It's just like yeah, adding to the beginning instead of the end. That is an interesting
Right.
concept, and how me and Ben were talking about kind of like what is that called? Is it the accordion, Ben, where they pull it in, and time and space kind of meet when you pull the centers to each other, but when you're talking about an infinity, there is no ending point to pull towards that, to shift from the beginning. So
They call that bending space.
right.
Bending space.
Wow, that's interesting. That was just a neat thought I'd seen. Just thought I'd mention that one. But here's the big one I'm really wanting to get some feedback on. I'm going to give credit to vulture.com because I took a lot of the topics from them that we'll hopefully discuss here. It has to do with a pretty big topic these days, especially, and that's whether we're living in a simulation. It's huge, and I think this website particularly did a very good job of compiling a lot of things that I'd heard elsewhere as well. But they basically brought what people call proof. I don't know if you can actually prove it at all, but they've got some pretty darn compelling things on here. And I wanted to kind of hit them, a couple of them anyway, one by one, and see what you guys think. Now, number one, of course, is something that has come up in the last decade or so called the Mandela effect. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. They say that, and I never really put 2 and 2 together, but they say that that is a construct of this simulation that's sort of like a glitch.
Yeah, I have heard that for sure, that the simulation we have in, and just either that or like a dimensional thing, or you slip to a different dimension, something like that. And I also have heard about the Mandela effect before. I know I don't want to cut you off too hard about that, but I've heard the Mandela effect is the government seeing just how, let's see, how can I put this? They're changing things to see what. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm getting text messages and shit. I'm gonna restart. We'll go back in like right about here. But the government is doing the Mandela effects. They're changing things in the past to see how it affects people's minds, and they're just changing subtle things to if I change the Bernstein Bears to the Berenstain Bears or whatever, let's see what happens to these people. Obviously, I'm not quite sure on how real that is, but that is just something that I did hear lately.
So
I'll never be the same.
Have you guys ever heard of Sylvester James Gates? He is a theoretical physicist at Dartmouth. Or he's from Dartmouth, his college. He did an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm pretty sure y'all have heard of him.
Yeah.
The astrophysicist. He was talking about, there was a video they did, it wasn't very long, where James Gates provides evidence that they found binary code, computer code, and it threw out with an equation trying to find the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And how they used it. They think they used Stephen Hawking's theories and broke down these equations to where they found binary computer code. And it's way over my level of understanding because I've tried to understand physics, but it was very intriguing. The fact that Neil deGrasse Tyson was pretty blown away by this, and another theoretical physicist from an Ivy League college, I thought it was pretty impressive. The clip is short. I know that your OBS is kind of weird, but it would be cool to be able to show you guys that because they would be able to explain it than me. But Sylvester James Gates and that interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, it was very, very intriguing.
Processing, we can just throw it in right here.
It's cool, man. It was cool. I saw it on Twitter. So, I learned a lot of things through Twitter, but it was those two. And then I looked it up.
Do you think finding computer code and, however they found it, does that make it to where the simulation we're in possibly is coded from a computer and we are in that kind of simulation, a more of a technological one? Or does that mean that we found the the what am I trying to say here? We found
The key,
kind of, yeah, we broke into
the key to the cipher. You know,
not really. No, you kind of just fucked my whole. You threw me completely off what I was trying to say.
my bad, bro.
I don't know. I think maybe we're just we're discovering what was used to create what we were in and using that to create the technology. Not that it's we're a simulation based off of a computer. It says our computers are based off the simulation that we live in. Like we live in this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Whatever. We'll cut it out.
But when you mention that, though, okay, so it says along the way, Dr. Gates has gotten attention for discovering what he says is computer code in the math that underlies our world. Specifically, he said it was an error correcting mechanism. Others have I can't even say that word. I can't say a lot of this stuff. Anyways, this has led him to speculate in a mostly joking way that we might in fact be living in a giant computer simulation. What I will say is, the clip I watched, he was definitely not in a mostly joking way explaining his theory. He was very seriously explaining his theory. So this article is probably just being very generous with saying, or they just, refuse to believe the fact that we could potentially, possibly ever be living in a simulation.
Yeah.
But it was a very interesting video, and I implore you to go watch it.
Sure.
I noticed that in a lot of major media networks, they'll try to kind of tongue-in-cheek downplay a lot of anything that's not completely black and white.
And their paradox.
Exactly. They'll plant seeds of doubt and kind of poke fun at things like that.
Yeah. Don't mind their evidence. Just never change your paradox. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
And also,
I heard Mystic Mark say that.
Technically, I think like it wouldn't the whole Christianity thing, like God created the world in 7 days, whatever it was, and then put people on it, and he knows the beginning, middle, of end, and what's going to happen. And I mean, that sounds a lot like a simulation to me. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's just how you look at it, and I guess that's what I was trying to get at earlier. Is it may be less of like a ones and zeros things, and it's a divine, like, God particle type thing, but the only way we know how to register it is a ones and zeros type thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
7 days was his upload speed, apparently.
Oh, that's what it was.
7 days per. I don't know.
But what I think is most compelling about that is that it was error correcting code. Something about that gives me chill. Because that sounds so intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like we have scientists, smashing fucking particles together, and we might create a black hole. Who knows? Good luck, everybody else. Maybe thanks whoever created the universe correcting code and put it in our universe files.
Yeah.
Appreciate
that. This
atom
'cause bomb may cause a chain reaction.
Yeah. Oh no, I am become death. God, I hate that motherfucker. I hate that motherfucker. I don't want to get too far off topic, but yeah, we got some assholes here on Earth that just probably if we didn't have universe saving correcting code, we would probably all be fucking flat by now or something. They would have ruined it.
Yeah, something I wanted to bring up too is the more we learn about things, I am a Christian myself, and so there's certain things I hear and I'm thinking, well, that doesn't go along with the Bible or things like that. I remember at a pretty young age, I told my mom that about rainbows because she always told me that's the promise that that God will never flood the earth again. Well, then later on I found out about what a rainbow was. Then it was light particles and bouncing off, and I just felt like, wow, that's what it is. It's not a promise from God. It's particles and all that. And I told her that, and I was pretty upset. I was pretty young, like I said. And she said, just because you know what a rainbow is doesn't mean it's not still the promise of God. So, I think of that a lot now. The more we learn, it doesn't mean, oh, that's not God's work. He had to make it somehow. And just because we understand how doesn't take away anything that
Right.
I've learned up until that point. So,
Absolutely not. That's a very good
Yeah.
point. Yeah. That's
They got a
very
god
good
up
point.
there, writing binary. He's going to town on his,
Absolutely. He's got
his
17
developer's rig.
screens. He's got 17 screens. Got a hella keyboards.
And he is
spin
making the
chair.
most epic RPG
Yeah,
ever
dude,
known.
he's going hard up there for
known
sure.
to anybody.
But one of the points they say that I thought was interesting on Vulture.com about this whole simulation theory is that people see ghosts all the time. Well, they claim they do, and so they say that it's more likely that those are just sort of hiccups in the simulation or things like that, other than just occurring as we believe they do. And something I find interesting about that is I watched Ghost Adventures a while back, and they said that they saw something push a ball down the stairs, and they talked to a physicist who said that, do you understand that for a ghost to push a ball down the stairs would be to undo everything we understand about physics, as the ghost can walk through walls and all that, but yet it can manipulate solid objects. That just doesn't add up. We'd have to undo everything we know to this point. And so that all that together tells me that may be true. Maybe that is sort of a hiccup in the simulation. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I have always found it to be absurd. The fact that I won't say all physicists, most notable physicists completely they deny the fact that there's zero possibility that a god or a deity or a creator can exist with science. It's not possible. But at the same time, they have this mathematical equation that's a bunch of numbers and symbols that's supposed to explain how we became, how we just all of a sudden appeared here on Earth and a fish became a man. I think in order to explain the paranormal encounters or ghost encounters, there's no way, if you don't believe in a god, there's no way you can believe in a ghost. If you can't believe in a spirit, you can't believe in another spirit.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I find that a flaw in your logic. If you believe in ghosts but don't believe in a god, there's a conflict of interest there.
You gotta trust the science. And science just becomes their religion, you know what I'm saying? And you have
like
to,
Scientology,
it's
even though
just
that's a
like,
different
and
thing.
shit just we get so lucky according to their religion, and it's just so fact-based, but we just got lucky, the Big Bang, and everything just fell into place. Oh, lucky us. And the sun, we're exactly how fucking far we need to be. We're the only place.
Yes.
Oh, how lucky of us. Oh, we're spinning the exact fucking speed and rotating the exact amount of time it makes where we won't puke our guts up, and our moon is exactly 4 times smaller than our sun, and it's 4 times closer or whatever the fuck, so whenever it gets in the way, it blocks it out perfectly. You get the point, all right?
Yeah,
There's a
dude.
lot of we're just so lucky, and
Insane.
everything just happens to, it shouldn't work this way, but it did work this way, so it's fine. Just trust the science. I don't believe your shit. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but you can show me all the ones and zeros, and I don't know for a fact that you are telling me the truth all the way along the way. And that's why
Exactly.
all this shit on Facebook, and I'm not going to name drop anybody, but Jim knows who I'm talking about. There's people, and they share around this shit of just ships flying around the moon and shit, and they're like, and you say we're alone, and it's like, dude, I have seen realer shit, like in a fucking Bollywood production where they're, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck are we talking about right now? I'm sorry. Honestly, I'm so upset. I don't even know where I was going with that point anymore. I think I'm just ranting at this point.
I had that on the list too. Call it the Goldilocks sequence. So we're It's
Oh,
just
people
right.
just
Everything's
believe
just
shit.
right.
People just believe any fucking thing they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm getting at. People just fucking believe anything. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
anymore. If it
Yeah.
comes from NASA or if it comes from some government, they're like, oh, yes, sir, let me lick that boot and get that information down my head, please.
Or CNN or Fox.
It's the same shit. That's government.
It's the
It's
same thing.
government.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all government-funded
Media
government,
these
man.
days, all of that. You know what I'm saying? That shit is all co-opted.
Yep.
Anyways, I'm off my
This isn't even
soapbox.
on the. That's all right. Have you guys ever seen the Fibonacci square? I believe it's called
I know the Fibonacci sequence.
sequence. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
I've heard of
That-
it. I've definitely heard of it. Just give the listeners a refresher about what it is.
It's the perfect spiral, and you'll find it on the tops of even human heads. The hair, how it spirals out. It starts small and it spirals out. You'll see it in flowers. You see it all in nature, all over the place. It's the perfect sequence of growth from in outwards, kind of.
Right.
I always think that's just way too perfect to be a coincidence. Which, I mean, obviously, when you're looking for, you know, what's it called? Uh, Creation. Basically, you look for that perfect pattern,
Yeah.
and I think that's it. That cannot be coincidence or by chance.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing I thought was just fascinating, almost up there with the computer code, was that in 2017, I'm reading this part. 2017, a multidisciplinary group of researchers at the University of Washington proved they could embed malicious computer code into physical strands of DNA.
Oh wow.
Isn't that
Yeah,
something? Their aim was to show. They
That's
wanted to
pretty
show that computers working in gene sequencing were vulnerable to attack, but they may have inadvertently revealed that we perceive to be biological reality was in fact computer code all along.
Mm. Well,
Isn't that
it'd
something?
be a shame if they were to give like the entire world a shot that would be, adjusting your mRNA or something like that. Luckily, they didn't just give the entire world a shot that could potentially adjust your mRNA or something like that. Because if that
So-
were to happen, what you just said would be fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
But luckily, we got
Nanobots.
lucky.
So back to the Fibonacci sequence. It had been a while since I had looked at it, so it's pretty crazy. So it's a series of numbers. Say like you have like 5, and then it goes from 5 to 8, and then from 8 to 13. So basically, every number in that, if you look at the 2 numbers before it and you add them up, it perfectly adds up to the number before it. Like the sum of those last 2 numbers will add up to the sum of each number ahead of it.
Mm.
So like 8 and 5 would make 13, and then 13 and 8 would make 21. So it is pretty wild to think that, these numbers, I don't know. I mean, it's a pattern, but it is a perfect progression. It's pretty wild to think of. I thought it was pretty wild.
And then when you point shit like that out and you're like, look at this crazy pattern. Like, there's no way that this shit just happened. People are like, oh, humans are pattern-seeking animals. We're pattern-seeking animals. What the fuck are you talking about, dog? Look at the
All
sequence.
animals are
Look at this
pattern-seeking.
shit. What does that even mean, dude? Do you feel better after saying that? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Every living
And do you know what a
organism is
lab rat
pattern-seeking.
is? Have you ever seen a rat go through a fucking maze before? Like, pattern-seeking animal. Like, I just need to grind my gears section at this point. I don't know what this week. I'm on.
Yeah, in
one.
this segment, Justin rants for 45 minutes and just goes in nonstop. Next week, guys, starting next week.
But there's other things on the on that Vulture website story that I was telling you about. I'll make sure to include that. We can upload that to one of our feeds, maybe, if anybody wants to take a look at the whole list. But they give 15 arguments. But those are the big ones I wanted to touch on today, based on what I'd seen. I thought was most interesting. That's about all I have this week. Just a couple of big things I wanted to talk about, and I think we hit them all pretty well. So
Hell
Yeah, man, I thought it was
guys-
fun, dude. I love
Hell
stuff
yeah,
like
I
this.
love the deep conversations
Awesome.
like that, man. And I think, like, I don't know. As for the simulation thing, even if we are in some sort of simulation, I don't think that means that there's nothing after this, because the people take the simulation thing and they black pill from it and they turn into doomers and, oh, the fucking somebody just made this shit, so it doesn't matter what happens, and whatever I do now, it doesn't matter what happens after, and then they just get real bum, and you lose out on life, man, if you're too worried about shit like that, you know. And these topics where we discuss what comes from afterlife and what happens before we come here and blah blah blah, and they are very interesting, and three of us love talking about them, absolutely, but we do not want people to forget that you do have a life to live while you're here. And if you do have an afterlife to look forward to, then you want to make sure that you live your life to the fullest and do it correctly while you're here. And if you don't feel like there's anything after, then fucking live your life to the fullest. Take the one chance you get to have whatever experience this is and take it. You don't have to hear the, oh, it's, you know, simulation, so there's nothing after that, so I'm just going to sit on my couch and drink myself to death, you know? What the fuck? What's the point in that? If this is all we have, then take every single second and fucking use it for good, or just whatever you want. Just live this life to what you actually want. Don't just sit on your couch and dream about it. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Go for a hike, get Lyme disease.
Go for a hike,
Try
get Lyme
again.
disease. Go sit
Get
4
Lyme
hours
disease.
in the ER waiting for a doctor to come and not even fully tell you what you have.
Yeah, and then do it again.
And fucking do it again.
Yeah, and then do it again.
You guys have anything to add on that, or am I just being too sappy?
Nah, dude, that was beautiful.
Wow. Good way to end the show.
It was gorgeous.
Right on. Now, I know last week we discussed we were going to have something to close the show out with, and Jim said something, and we all agreed on it. And I will be damned if I forgot immediately.
I remember.
Do you remember what was it?
He said, "Keep an open mind."
And keep an open mind. Oh, that's absolutely.
That's what I said.
Right.
Yeah.
Plays perfectly with
yes,
this.
yes, absolutely. Ladies
an
and
open
gentlemen,
mind.
this has been the Esoteric Roundtable, and please remember to keep an open mind. See you next week.